Welcome to the podcast. I haven't gone outside in over 50 years. No commute, no bus. Still somehow fully equipped with problems. Parent offline, friend out of stock. So this show is just daily life from long-term economy mode.
I don't go outside. This is my battlefield. Fighting alone every single day. No one sees it, but I keep going. Slow is fine. Stopping is fine. Just move forward. Hikikomori hero, still standing. This is just a podcast.
Before the podcast upload were irregular sometimes, and my parent is still the one posting them for me. And my parent got confused about it again. It was only for a few days, and I told them that at the time and explained it clearly. But she asked if I was gonna keep doing it that way from now on. And this is where it gets tough. And she got confused. She weren't listening back then. Well, this kind of thing happened, and if my parents just said, I understood. I just wanted to check it would be solved right away. If she said, I already know, I was just asking, it wouldn't be much of a problem. But today I got complicated. I don't remember it that well. First, I asked her to look at the note, and it took a while to find them. Then she found her, but still didn't get it. I was hoping she'd find the note and say, all right, this was only for a few times. But even after looking at it, they were saying something confusing. I don't remember the details. It was really tiring to explain over and over. I said, did I ever say, we'd do it this way from now on? I never said that. That was just for a few days, right? And my parent gave some strange explanation. That didn't make sense. That wasn't the only thing today. Before that, I noticed something yesterday. It's been about 10 years since I stopped laughing, and I almost never laugh now. And I thought I really have had no energy at all. I'm not sure how to put it. It's not like I'm stuck in bed. It's more like being a robot. There's a feeling of no hope, but also no excitement and no sudden burst of energy, just living day by day in a flat kind of way. But looking back, I think just living each day quietly was the right way to go. Doing things for a reason or for motivation just that doesn't work for me. Somehow I've managed to stay out of bed and keep going this her. Well, in energy, I'm not sure if energy is the right word. So if I ever accidentally drank one of those energy drink, I think it would make for a really rough day. Those energy drink and similar things. Also, flu medicine apparently isn't great either. Mentally, I think it wouldn't be good for me. Next topic, studying philosophy or psychology for the podcast. Studying for the podcast doesn't feel natural to me because I'd be doing it with a goal in my mind, like studying for a test, that kind of things. I've always avoid that. Doing something with a specific purpose in mind just doesn't work for me. Honestly, studying English also doesn't feel right, and even making the podcast isn't really ideal. And so something like strength training is just right. It's not like I'm doing any sport, so building up my body doesn't have a real point, but that level of pointlessness is just right. Running about food doesn't make me a cook, and I'm not gonna nice restaurant or writing a food blog, but that level of it is just right. Though yesterday I talked about the common experience of people who grew up in a religion, and I'm thinking about how to keep looking into things like that. Same with the podcast I'm listening to now. I'm also going back and forth on that. I can do strength training in the middle of the night. And if I try to study, I'm all or nothing kind of person. So with all the countless articles and boards and things out there, I'd only end up covering a small part of it. It feels like standing in front of the huge open field and not being able to move. And if I study and then talk about things that don't really fit the show, and people stop listening, that would be a problem too. It would be hard to listen to. Going back to what happened in the morning, my parent wanted to ask whether the English episode should be posted first. They wanted to ask if the English episode should be posted first, but what they said was, "Is there English in it?" From my side, it was like, what is this person suddenly talking about? It came out of nowhere and made no sense in context, and that's what it felt like. When I asked about it later, they said they wanted to ask whether the English episode should be posted first, but all they said was those few words, "Is there English in it?" Yeah, and that was surprising. I had no idea what they were saying. They probably just don't feel the need to uh, explain things to other people. Also, I sometimes think back to someone from my basketball club in high school. They were a genuine person. I think they were sub-leader at the school festival. In first year, they didn't seem that motivated, but they stepped up and tried to try to be part of the group. Most of the people in the club were tough and strong-willed, and I don't think they fit in that well. That person joined for basketball, but actually maybe they weren't great with people either, and they were almost too straightforward. Maybe they had a hard time with relationship. To those were the kind of things I was thinking back on. Also, old people get help from caregivers just to take a bath. Yesterday, I was looking into that a bit. I was curious about it's like when someone needs help bathing. I wondered whether everyone really need to take a bath even with help, since I don't take bath myself. But I do wipe down my body, and honestly, I feel like I'm doing okay compared to before. But still, everyone takes a bath, even when they need help from someone. Even old people. So then, well, am I? I'm not taking a bath. And this is something I feel a little embarrassed talking about. But I said it anyway. The reason now is better than before is that before I couldn't dry my hair, and so there was probably a lot of bacteria, and I wasn't properly wiping under my arms. And people who had their hair removed are different, but that goes for the whole body. Speaking of that, there are many times I wish I could really get full body hair removal done. Before I found shaving my head and face annoying, and I wanted to make it more efficient. So I thought about whether I could somehow remove the hair myself. Honestly, the beard is one thing, but I really do want hair removal. I had no money, I have no time, but I just can't leave the house. And I probably won't have money in the future either. So thinking about that things other people can do that I can't. It makes me feel like not just my personality, but the way I live my life is out of step with everyone else too. My way of living is already out of step, and thinking about that is really, really painful. Also with X, I said to just write the show name, and that's the setting my parent handles. And but when they were doing the setup, they said the description was too long for the character limit. So I said to look at the note, and they looked and said, "Oh, it's written like this," and things like that happened. First, they do things I never asked for, and waste time. Waste time. There were other things to do, like looking into options and what's needed to be done right then. They just waste time like that all the time, and they don't look at the notes I've written. So notes are pointless, or even they do look. They misread them, and they are still pointless. Or they read them in their own way and get the wrong idea. That's kind of things happened. Recording in the afternoon, and now I came upstairs and I'm recording. Today was rough again. I had a stomach ache. It's been a while, or maybe not that long, and that cause is unknown. I didn't eat much pork yesterday. Also, I was talking about Spotify. My parents said they were changing it to no ads mode. I had no idea that what they were talking about. Again, something that didn't fit the conversation at all. They said they are changing it so there are no ads, and I still didn't get it. Did they mean without any notice or email? But I thought, would I ever say it that way? If I said they're changing Spotify to no ads to someone, there's no way to understand what I meant. I would never put it that way. Also, maybe that got them a little upset. After that, they said, "What did you just say?" and seemed to blame me. After that, I thought about asking why they were in a bad mood, but they seemed back to normal. So I thought it was better not to say anything. Also, I still going back and forth about the podcast again. I'm not sure if I can say the cover is done or not, but maybe all this worrying is why my stomach is acting up, and I'm actually going back and forth about right now is Portuguese and Spanish is very similar. Right now, there are a lot of Brazilian listeners, so maybe Portuguese would be better. And what if I started doing Portuguese at this point? There are a lot of Brazilian listeners, so doing Portuguese makes sense. But if I switch to Spanish, would the listeners change? That's the question. Right now, I'm not speaking Portuguese, but Brazilian are already listening. So do I do Portuguese or do I do Spanish? Even though there are currently zero Spanish speaking listeners, and the chance is that something that might change. So I looked into the number of Spanish and Portuguese listeners and how those market growing. I looked into quite a bit. I listened to Portuguese to see how hard the pronunciation is. I also listen to some Brazilian music to get a feel for it. And I looked into the pronunciation difference from Spanish. I looked into which is growing more Spanish or Brazilian Portuguese. I looked into which countries people are more likely to be interested in being a chatting. I looked into what Brazil's pronunciation population will look like in the future. I looked into whether there's any chance of gaining listeners by doing Spanish. Since right now, not a single Spanish-speaking person is listening. Doing all that, I realized Brazil being friendly to Japan is one thing, but in terms of population, it's similar to Indonesia. So if the reason for choosing the language is because Brazilians are Japan friendly, then by the some logic, Indonesian would work just as well. Right now, no Spanish-speaking people are listening, but Brazilians are. Is that because it doesn't matter whether I do Spanish or Portuguese, or Brazilian listening simply because a lot of them understanding English? If that's the case, would switching to Spanish bring a big change? Those were things I was looking into. It's really hard. Spanish-speaking people aren't listening, so even if I do Spanish, would it really grow? Really grow? And are Brazilian listening not because the show fits them, but simply because they understand English? That's what I was looking into. It was a lot of work. Recording late at night. Now back in my student days, and when I was studying to retake my exams, being a perfectionist and having a correcting and personally combined, and I'd stayed up all night looking for the perfect videos. You can do it because you have the time. It's not that bad now, but I still find myself wanting to watch everything once I start. And I've been watching many short videos. Social media is very easy to get addicted to. But I've been watching yesterday and today, and honestly, it scares me a little. Also, something I've talked about before. What's the point of recording a podcast in English? I used to feel this loneliness like, does anyone else even do this? But it's turned out doing a podcast in multiple language is actually a current trend. Why was I feeling so alone about it? I thought, but finding that out didn't make me feel good, because the same thing happened with Note. Note, what exactly is it? It's not WordPress, it's a way to write a blog called Note. Well, it is more like social media. I was looking for tools and I came across it. And my gut said this is good. And a few years later, it started getting popular. And now notes articles are all over the internet. But I'm frustrated. I found something ahead of the curve, but I didn't use it. Thinking that maybe the same thing is happening with the multi-language podcast idea. It's just too painful. Recording in the morning now. Changing in podcast stats and trouble focusing. First, about the morning, I looked at the country stats for the podcast and they were changed again. And now I'm worrying even more about how to share the episode. I'm really struggling when I'm this unsure about something from the morning. My depression feels worse. Also, for animals, a change always means there might be danger to their life. So change there doesn't happen without being aware of it, I think. But when you think about what you do while sleeping, that's clearly without being aware of it. Basically, the way humans act, and even more the way the mind works, is built to not change easily and to be aware of it when it does change. But like I always say, the moment something even slightly unrelated enters my mind, my ability to focus disappears. The moment something unrelated becomes part of my awareness and focus is gone. Especially during meals, it's really bad. I know it's okay. My head knows it's fine even if something changed. But during meals, I have no memory of even a second ago because I'm concentrating so hard, and it's something that change. It's always entered my awareness. Is this change okay? Animals are built to check for that, and in my case, especially during meals, if my focus gets pulled away, I can't get it back quickly. It's differently related to anxiety too, because it affects how I feel. People sometimes need a change, right? Because you get tired of things. Things change to some degree, and then my focus breaks completely. Well, it takes time to get back. Also, I've been thinking lately. I just wanna talk about how I'm different from other people, but it ends up sounding like complaint, and I'm not sure what to do about that. I don't wanna complain at all, but I get worried that's the way I'm saying things might sound unpleasant. Also, in the morning, I was talking with my parent about the grocery store, and what caught my attention first was them saying Saturday is busy, you know. Grocery stores, even ones that are usually uh, quiet, are busy on holiday, right? I wasn't sure. I wasn't sure how to explain that. I didn't bring it up just then, but I think it's probably just busy because it's a holiday. Holidays are busy. They probably think it's busy specifically and because it's Saturday, not that holiday. In general, busy. Under those conditions, other stores would be the same weekend busier. Also, a sudden idol did a commercial shoot at some place, and someone flew in front outside the area on a plane just to see that spot. Since it's usually not open to the public, I think they'd probably just see it's a regular tree or whatever. But I was thinking, can people like that keep seeing the world through that kind of dream, like runs forever? There are people who go to location from dreams and show for that same reason. But it's kind of amazing being able to keep seeing the things through that kind of dream. People who go to drama, filming, location, fully living inside that world. I'm not sure. That's what I was talking with my parent about in the morning. Also, I remember the electronics store near Earth was supposed to close or move about a year ago. And now my parents said it's still there. I said that's different from what you told me. And then they said something like maybe the flyer aren't coming from there but from where they moved to. Well, if that's the case, then you said a year ago they were moving, but now it's still there. They said it's clearly at the time, but they were just saying it without really knowing. It's much more likely the flyer are coming from the same store at the new location. It's the same store after all. I feel a little silly for even thinking about it. That's hard. But strange things to happen. On the way to high school, I knew there was a grocery store and conveyor belt sushi place, but there was also used good shops, ramen place, and at least one other thing. And I thought, oh, there were that many different shops in that one area. I thought the people around here have it pretty convenient. There's even a bookstore nearby. That's what I was talking about too. Also, yesterday there was a UFO fun topic, and yesterday there was the cooking researcher I talked about before, and there was also someone who does a podcast, and they apparently also make boxed lunches pretty affordable ones. Yesterday there was sesame oil in it. I think daikon, radish, and carrot. The carrots were really good. Daikon has a kind of delicate quality to it. Japanese people like delicate things, so maybe that's why there's a lot of it. Same with tofu and the chicken. Did I talk about this before? Sakura hime chicken. Apparently, it's a really good kind of chicken. It's only get bought when it's on sale. The taste is completely different. And with podcast, I wonder why some people suddenly stopped their show and some only did a few episodes. Maybe they stopped because this podcast just aren't that popular, popular in Japan, and some people are somehow heading on for dear life. But I sometimes wonder if it's a losing battle, watching people like that. Also, yesterday was kimchi. Kimchi is really good on the first bite, so it's not really that healthy. There might be some kind of sweetener in it. The first bite is great, but after the taste, kind of faded. But because the first bite is so good, that stays in my memory, and so I wanna eat it again next time. And also the podcast I'm listening to right now. The show I've been listening to is ending, and this happening right at the time when I was already wondering whether listening to podcast in bed was a good idea. But the next show I'm thinking of sound pretty increasing, and I don't wanna get dependent on it. So I was going back and forth on whether now is a good time to stop. Well, for me, the content is really just something to pass the time. So I was thinking, so if I'm gonna do this, why not study the language instead? I like psychology and philosophy I was talking about before. Should I at least I know the basic words. I've had an idea for a while, but doing it halfway doesn't feel right either. And I'm not an expert, so talking about it on the podcast doesn't feel right either. And I'm not that interested in psychology, and that aren't many good ways to study it. Maybe there are apps for it. I looked through a lot of YouTube, but nothing really stood out. Okay, suddenly changing the topic. Beef feels special, and there's a sense of luxury around it. Well, maybe not full luxury, but it feels like a treat, right? Compared to chicken and pork. Of course, I was surprised before that in Osaka, wait, no, not Osaka, that the Tokyo area. Actually, I forget which one. I think it was Osaka. They use beef in curry, but still beef being more expensive is a fact. And people do think of beef as more expensive. So I think nationwide beef has the image of being pricey. But when I looked into it just now, it's simply because it costs more to feed them, and it takes longer to be ready for sale. That time before sale apparently matters a lot. I heard that before. How quickly you can get it to market affects the price. So if that's all it is, then the way we think about beef. Like for my family, we can only eat it once a year. It's real luxury. It's really just that it's harder to raise. And that's all. So many people carry this kind of assumption without even realizing it. That's why you don't notice things like this. Also, the arching is expensive because it's hard to catch and raise. And I don't know if this is about working conditions or not. But I heard before that a lot of cost goes into making it look like good rather than just taste good, and that's just tacked onto the price. I was thinking about that. Not exactly something usual, but it has a kind of shiso like taste plus something unique. There are plenty of other food that tastes similar. So it's strange that only the urchin is so expensive. But on the other hand, there was a celebrity who said buying expensive thing is fine because they last longer. But they last longer. But depending on how you look at it, that basically means it all evens out in the end. But if you follow that topic logic, the more expensive something is, the better value it is. Better value it is. Whatever price something is, looking at it over your whole life, it doesn't matter at all. No matter how expensive something is, fine. That's where that logic ends up rolling. I don't understand why they don't notice that. There I go complaining again. Also, just like last time with the WBC, I expected before it was with the team. This time as part of the national team. There's apparently been a lot of online hate directed at Southern players. I really support those players, but I don't wish the bad thing on people. I really don't. But I thought, yeah, of course this happened, and I noticed this strange feeling of excitement in myself, and it's an uncomfortable feeling. But I guess that's just human nature. But people who truly wish bad things on others, you can clearly tell when you see them. I've sometimes thought this person is different, and there are always a certain number of people like that. Also, a new worry came up. Already, I kinda knew this, but the current AI technology is amazing. Apparently, it can copy the tone, speed, and even the hesitation in someone's voice completely, which means using a translation tool that would actually be better for reaching people overseas. And I thought speaking in English myself it gets the feeling across better to people overseas. But if everything can be copied like that, then there's no point in speaking English, which I kinda already knew. But I didn't think it had gotten this far. I thought it was 50 years away. It's a shock that there's no way to stand out from crowd either if everyone starts doing this. Yeah, that was really surprising, and there are other shows doing that too. Also, because English shows in English and Japanese shows in Japanese, I started wondering whether I should split my show into separate one too. Good night. Recording in bed now. Before I talk about what's happened today, I'm currently going back to first about episode titled. Some podcasts just put the episode number, but that doesn't make me wanna listen. And if people think it's a mental health show, or think it's about one specific topic, that's not quite right either. It's more like a monologue kind of show. So I'm going back and forth on that. And also, like I said before, I'm still stuck on the Portuguese question. So I was looking into what Brazilian likes as a country today. I pretty much wasted time again. Also, over the past 3 days, I haven't been able to record English episode. It's like becoming that person who panics because their summer vacations homework isn't done. I hate that feeling. Normally, I'd have it done ahead of time, but for these past 3 times, it's just didn't work out for various reasons. And the cover and finishing touches took time, so I feel like waste time. And I still haven't started studying Spanish right now. I'm still doing multiple language, but what kind of title should I use? If the title is too specific, it doesn't fit the casual conversation and monologue style of the show. Right now, I'm numbering the episode. I was thinking about how to make multiple language episodes easy to look through without using date. Okay, so let me talk about what happened today. First, the soybeans. I was gonna use green soybeans, toast them, later make them to bits, roasted, smelling, and dip them in burnt mayo. And I said that was planned for that day after tomorrow. And they didn't listen. At first, I thought, well, maybe just missing the word day after tomorrow is understandable. But not thinking about it again. Given the growth of conversation, they should have understood for sure. And there's no way to get confused because what's happening tomorrow is already decided. My parents just hear things in the way that's convenient for them. Also today, this was just a simple mistake. I said don't heat up the full block of tofu, but it all came out cold. Bad luck. Bad luck. Of all the times for this to happen, I was cold. The tofu was cold and just got colder. I was eating it thinking something fell off, and noticed the texture was exactly the same as usual. And on top of that, the water hadn't been removed, so it felt really heavy, and I felt like I couldn't eat it properly at all. I was thinking what to do. What do I do from tomorrow? But that turned out to be a waste of thinking. It was just that there was too much water in it, so it filled me up. And up until now, my parent had never once mentioned that heating it in the microwave removes water. They never explained that at all. All they said was that it matters whether you remove the water before putting it in the microwave. So hearing that the amount of water that gets removed depends on how long you heat it in a microwave, that was completely new to me. My plan changed again, and I had to think hard about it. How much water to remove from now on? How long to heat it in the microwave? It was really a lot of think through. Also, I had said it was fine to either fry the soybeans in a pan or use a microwave. But then My parents said you said to cook in it a pan, didn't you? Same with the grain soybeans thing. They said the complete confidence, and you said it was grain soybeans tomorrow, didn't you? But I never said that. They were so sure about it. But when I said I never said that, they said, "Oh, what was that it? Was that it?" And I thought, if you weren't, that's sure. Why did you say it with such confidence? Okay, next topic. All right. But the title things I mentioned earlier, actually thinking about it was a waste of time. I didn't even need to go back and forth on it. There are some difference between the English and Japanese episode, and I was thinking of writing something like shut in DX. I came up with various ideas for the Japanese episode, but that ended up being ruined too bad. Also in the afternoon, something I noticed that the sudden show. I once said what station it's from, but it's a radio show on the southern station where an idol is a regular. And they forced in a segment about the local area into a special episode, and that just doesn't fit an idol show. I do like the station. I used to listen to the radio every day, but I kind of wonder about the stuff at that station, or maybe the people they worked with. I'm not sure, but it seems like there are a lot of people from top university working there, which is in a way is strange. But basically, smart people with no sense of style doing entertainment. This is what you get. Also, I had a hard time remembering what I wanted to say next. I'm not even sure if this is right topic, but there was another thing I wanted to talk about. People who say their job is really hardest, and today's person was someone in the traditional Japanese performing art, saying it's really tough that they're pushing through, and that makes me pull back a little. I'm pretty strict with myself, but still, every day I'm doing my best just to deal with what's in front of me, and I don't look back and think that's what's so hard. There's no room for that, and comparing myself to others and thinking I'm going through something harder than most people. I just don't think that way. I can compare, so saying I'm in traditional art and it's really tough. I just don't get it. From my own experience, something that's truly so hard you don't think you can keep going. No matter how strict I am with myself, something like that has never lasted in my life because something truly that's hard. You just can't keeping going, and people get used to things. You'd stop thinking about how hard it is after the part this month or so. And if you are comparing it to other jobs and thinking this is the hardest, if you are really thinking about that, you are probably can't keep going. Or the job or the balance it out. One of the two. Also lately when I'm recording as a podcast, it keeps turning into complaint, and that's bothered me. And lately, I've been going back and forth about the heater at night. If it's too warm, I feel hot, and then I think I waste money on the heater. How about everyone else recording tonight? First, there was apparently bullying in a certain idol group, leaving one member out. Something like that happened. Where at my house, it's kind of like my parent is the one being treated badly, where it's actually worse at worse than that, and yet they're the one standing for my sake. And I felt really bad thinking about that. It was really painful. Also, after that kind of topic, my parent keeps letting out gas nearby. I go back and forth on whether to say something each time it happens. It happens so often. Also, my dad probably knows the background or why my mom is standing. And the starting point of all this was a problem my dad caused at a religion funeral. He put information about the current state of our family and Crocky family into a booklet without permission, and that's what set everything off. I think he understands why he's standing. So he probably feels bad about it, feels res- responsible. But right now, especially, I'm really angry at the leader of the religion and of all times for things to go wrong. So there are many times before I wanted to let my dad know how terrible things have been, but it's never worked out. And yet now of all times it seems to be working. Well, maybe that he doesn't really care. Hard to say. Those are kind of worried about lately. Also today I was daydreaming about a teacher from school having a meal together on a school trip, wishing I had talked more, or wondering if saying this is really good would have been enough, or thinking maybe they made time to talk to me because I normally couldn't. Things like that made me feel sad. Also, this is another daydream. If I were on a date and went on a trip with a girlfriend, or even just home, there's no way I'd just sit and stare at the TV. I don't wanna spend time doing nothing, and and I don't wanna spend time doing something that feels too safe. But I also think I also don't think pushing myself toward something specific is right either. I don't wanna do something with a purpose, and I also can't accept just sitting and watching TV. So what would I at a time like that? That's why I think I'm pretty different from most people. Being able to just relax and have that kind of free time. It would be nice to have that kind of mental space, but I'm not sure I do.